On this channel, we like to point out cards that have entered a zone of high risk, and there's nothing that is higher risk than cards that have hit all-time highs, unless a card is also scarce.
We're always talking about what cards you should be buying. This video is do not buy these.
Do not buy these. No.
Bad Christmas spirit.
Big thank you to all of our patrons who are all extremely nice and very funny and have nice shaped heads. We cannot do it without you. Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake Joel Magic. We have got Don't Buy These, and we are starting with Atali, Primal, Conqueror. My goodness, has this card been giving me fits. Jake built it as soon as it came out. I had to play against him in Commander with it. It is being played in Brawl all over the place on Arena. I'm even seeing it pop up in weird decks where it's like trying to cheese it out from the graveyard. Atali Primal Conqueror, Jake, it's really strong. People have recognized it. It used to be $5 and now we have crossed the $20 line.
It's Chaos Wand, dude. It's like a super Chaos Wand as your commander. I love this card as a general, but yeah, I'm not surprised that people are trying to sneak it on the battlefield and abuse this ETB. It's just extremely strong, and then if you flip it, it turns into a win condition. So very strong card, very good, very fun. And I'm not surprised that it's entered into this $20 zone, but with this, it does enter a zone of what I would say is high risk here for a card that's rare.
Good.
It does is it puts some equity into March of the Machine, so there is an incentive in there to open March of the Machine to find this card, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, at rare, this card staying over $20 long term is highly unlikely based on cards like it that we've seen in sets in the past. I'm reminded of another card that we might want to look at as a comp. I'm reminded of cards like Tyrannax Rex, where this is a mythic, y'all, and it doesn't have the exact same weight of like taking over a game when you resolve it, but it's still trample, ward 4, haste, toxic 4, can't be countered. The 3 green pips move it down the bench a little bit, but at $20 at one point, and you see it never really took off again. With this one being at rare, I just can't see this staying long term because this is a little bit being pushed by multiple formats, and so I just can't see it staying up this high very long. Next up, we got the Ozolith from Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. Man, does this one need a reprint, and there are +1 counter decks, so many counters countering around all over the place. There's lots of places to reprint this, but we just haven't seen it.
Yeah, you may move those counters from the Ozolith to target creature. It's just an extremely mana efficient way to get the most out of your counter synergy. So it's like any commander deck that has counters wants this. At this point, having been out a little while, this
July
card
20,
is,
it was down at $4, $5.
but look at it, and it's so funny because you look at it and you're like, oh, it's obvious, right? But back then when the card's $4, you're not really thinking about, wow, I should be buying these up. But if you had, you would be sitting on some pretty sweet gains. But with that, the people that did buy it at $4, the card is up at $30, and so that puts it into a range of like, all right, this has some pretty good reprint equity, right? If we ever go back to Ikoria, Ozolith is probably going to get a reprint. Also, you have like the list, that kind of thing. It did get a Tales of Middle Earth version, but it's hard to even equate that to being a meaningful reprint, right?
Right.
So yeah, great card though. Great card, but I'm probably not buying it at $30.
No. It is a little out of range of Secret Lair territory at this point, but it's a rare, y'all. 1 reprint of like probably 3 versions in a master set.
Or it could be the showcase card of a Secret Lair, and then that ends up.
Maybe. It's so rare to see a card, especially from the last 3-5 years, that's over $30 popping up. But maybe. I just think that any kind of Masters set reprint, which is probably where we would see this outside of an actual return to Ikoria, which we know we don't have on the immediate horizon. This is just going to tank super hard. This is not the kind of card I want to buy for 30 bucks.
It is played in modern hardened scales, which is notable. So there is like a pull there. It's so nice for a card in Dominaria United to get some love.
Yes, seriously.
I actually recently saw people talking about this card on Reddit. It just has kind of blown up, and when you look at it, it's pretty obvious. You got a flashing 1/1 for 2 that gives other Merfolk you control +1/+1. So it's an anthem for Merfolk. But you can sack a Merfolk, encounter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. So Merfolk has some pretty sweaty decks, right? It's in Modern, it's in Pioneer, it has Legacy playability. And being able to counter by sacking a Merfolk, you could sack a less important Merfolk. You don't even have to sack this one. This card is just super sweaty. It's very good. Casual and sweaty Merfolk decks want it.
Yeah, and this is the kind of one that whenever there is a Merfolk printed that potentially turns the Merfolk deck in any format into an actual threat, this is the kind of card you want to look out for getting a short-term pop. The other side of this kind of series, y'all, we call it Don't Buy These, but we could also title this series Go Check Your Bulk, because this is suddenly a card that I promise people who open Dominaria United are sitting on 2 or 3 copies they did not want at the time, now have a $10 bill plus sitting in their notebook. You need to go pull this one out. You need to get rid of it if you're not playing Merfolk.
There's also something interesting to be said about, since this came out, it did nothing, right? However, all of a sudden, because we like go back to, you know, Ixalan, right? We're getting more Merfolk. This card all of a sudden getting a lot of love. If you were like buying this at $1 or 99 cents, you're sitting on a freaking 10 bagger here. All of those people, if they're smart, if you did buy 100 of these, I saw one guy talking about on Reddit how he spec'd this card and how he's selling all of them. That's the way to do this, especially if you bought them for cheap and now it's a $10 bill. You better be converting that into something else.
Wizards
Even
will do
if it's
this.
just cash.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Wizards will do this from time to time. We sort of knew. We're going back to Ixalan. We sort of know what the creature types are going to be on that plane. And this was a card that came out about the same time the year prior. And so Huatli likes to plant cards like this for future sets to have more synergistic pieces and not bog down the limited too much and to be like, yo, you only got to be playing Merfolk because of Vidalian Hex Catcher. Now we'll just
look how
plant that
obvious it is, though. It's such a good card, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So strong.
So, you know, as we go into the future with sets, little item to take away from would be look for potential plants for future sets. Specking is nearly dead in MTG, but opportunities like this can still pop up from time to time. We may be recommending that you don't buy these, but if there are cards that you do want to buy, make sure you use our TCG Player affiliate link. It's down there in the description. Before you check out, click it. It costs you nothing extra, and it really helps out the channel. Along the same lines, let's look at a card from Rivals of Ixalan that stayed super low because most people were like, oh, this is definitely going to get reprinted. Some people, you can see a little spike right here. People were like, oh, this is not a bad one to spec on. What if it doesn't get a reprint? And so it sort of stabilized out right here. But now everybody wants to build a dinosaur deck. And
this
whenever
card
this one's dealt damage, each opponent sacks a permanent. Yeah, this goes in your dinosaur deck.
Dude, this card has an all-time low of 33 cents, and now it's a $15 card.
That's right.
And it's because it's a 7-cost 8/5 that really just on the surface is not all that impressive. It's just like, oh, okay.
Unless you're in a dinosaur deck that's cheating dinosaurs onto the battlefield, and you can cheese this 8/5 out there on turn 4.
But also, you know, like pinging it, it's like, oh, okay, that's cute, right? But it does add up.
Oh yeah,
because it is each opponent sacks a permanent. It is so funny how a 33-cent card can hit from 2018 can hit an all-time high of above $15. But yes, this to me is just like, unless you absolutely have to have it for a dinosaur commander deck, I don't see any world where I'm jumping in at this price.
No.
This seems like Secret Lair written all over it as well.
As a single printing mythic from a set that costs more than all of our houses to buy and open, Mindbreak Trap, Vintage and Legacy, driving this absolute house of a trap, if you're in a sweaty ass format like that, up into the $70 range. This is not the time to buy Mindbreak Trap. This is the only printing of the card.
I love when you do the song for when it's the only printing of the card. I remember when we were opening Zendikar and this was a bulk mythic and we were like, oh, it's the crappy mythic. And
it's either that or Lorthos the Tide Maker.
Yeah, now this chart goes all the way out to 2012 for this card. And so Zendikar came out in 2009. So as far as the MTG stocks data goes, shout out to MTG stocks, because this is just so amazing to be able to look at a long-term chart like this and see what this card has done.
Yeah, that's really why MTG stocks is so great, because there's a lot of good websites on the internet that have, 3-6 year long charts for prices of cards. But to Jake's point, being able to go back 10 years and see the history, love MTG stocks for that fact.
It's just one of these cards. It's just such a sweaty card, dude. It's like, yes, if people are casting 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay its cost. In certain formats where you're casting a lot of spells in one turn, where there's a large stack of cards, a lot of those sweatier formats will come down to a very explosive turn where everybody's trying to expend all of their resources. It'll be like a force of will versus a force of will, and now all of a sudden everybody's hands are empty and Mindbreak Trap is going to actually matter. It's just scarcity. This is a card that as soon as it gets a reprint, it's just going to crater.
Gonna tank so hard.
Oh yeah.
I believe that we have talked about this card before, but it's just one that keeps climbing, and I just keep wanting to point it out as like scarcity is still driving major price hikes that will not sustain through a single reprint.
Next up, we got Huatli Dinosaur Knight, and this card just feels like it's getting a little bit of love, probably because dinosaur stuff is going on, but it's just not all that impressive for 6 mana. So for me, it seems like probably a little bit of a flash in the pan move going on right now. And so for me, this is a little bit of an avoid.
Absolutely a flash in the pan. You can see it hovered around the $4 mark because that's about where it was to potentially put this in your dinosaur deck and have it be a nice 6. I mean, look at the middle. It's a 6 mana removal spell. Basically, target dinosaur you control deals damage equal to its power, target creature you don't control. And then it can stick around if nobody attacks it down and boost your dinosaurs up to power and toughness at a time.
I just don't even care about that +2. It's like, I mean, it's fine.
It's something. Yeah, it's fine. It's a removal spell with upside is basically how I would look at this. An expensive removal spell with upside. But right now, with all of this hype on dinosaurs, it's the same category.
Dinosaurs
for me.
matter right now, dude.
Right,
Exactly. People care. People care about dinosaurs right now.
But wait, they won't. Just wait it out. They won't. This time next year, this is a distant memory. And Huatli's back down to being a $4 card, $3 card. This is one where risk-wise, you're talking about a difference of $2 or $3. You see, the last time it was really cheap, it was $3. It's about as low as it's ever been. And so low risk pickup here, but all of these cards fall into a category for me of this is where the hype is. These are the cards that people are thinking about. I want to build dinosaur tribal. And so
it seems like they're
with time to Zag.
Yeah, it seems like with dinosaurs, right? Because it's irrelevant a creature type. It seems like there's like a protection from it bottoming out, right? It's like it has a floor, which is, I guess, around that $2.50 to $3 level.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of dinosaurs, or that $3 level, because of dinosaurs, it's like it can't ever get super low.
Well, then also think about this: dinosaurs can't just pop up anywhere. You have to be on Ixalan or potentially Masters, Horizons, sets like those.
Secret Lair. Yeah.
but that's only going to be reprints. You're not going to get new cards there.
Right.
And so
True.
the
True.
pool of choices for dinosaurs is always going to be much lower than, say, your pool of choices for dragons or your pool of choices for even merfolk. Merfolk are everywhere. They've been around forever. Dinosaurs are fairly new in the context of the whole game. And so your choices are lower. That's going to keep the choices that are available at a little bit more of a premium. I'm a huge fan of zagging when everybody's zigging, and so that's my recommendation on Huatli Dinosaur Night is don't buy into this spike. This ain't permanent. I was just talking about dragons. Here is one that has not been reprinted. Look, this is the only printing of the card. Dragon just got a major reprint in Commander Masters, and so we've got this lingering love for dragons that's going to carry over into the beginning of next year, and you can kind of see we start seeing Dragon getting previewed. We start getting Commander Masters. People want to build dragons again. Whenever a dragon you control is part of the text on this card, I mean, y'all, this is the same kind of thing. One reprint. It's a rare.
Right. It's a rare. I love the ability. This is the Karmic Dragon.
Right.
This is the Karmic Justice Dragon. I like this. I mean, it's a very strong ability. It's a big ability. But yes, if you want to build dragons, if you're playing Dragon, you probably want this one in there, right?
For sure.
So that's what's happening is it's just like, oh God, I got to get my Scale Lord Reckoner. I don't want to leave that one out.
But you can see here.
All-time low of 88 cents.
When it's available, this card will be cheap. It's of note, this is a 4-mana dragon in the Dragon deck because the Dragon auto reduces all your dragons by 1. So it adds strength to it in that deck. But this is completely based around dragon hype right now, and so I would wait on Scale Lord Reckoner. This is a good one for a secret layer, that like $10 to $20 range. This is the kind of layer that we would criticize because it'll absolutely tank the price of the card, but the quote-unquote value of that layer will be completely propped up by this card. And so we'll see it. We'll see it in the next year or two.
A layer called We Love Dragons, and then it's just, you know, one dragon of each color and then maybe a multicolored dragon or something.
They gotta hire you, dude. I keep saying it. They've gotta hire you.
You need to stop. We hope you're enjoying this video, and if you are, thank you for watching. We want to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Card Conduit. Card Conduit is a great spot to sell some of your Magic the Gathering cards. If you're getting rid of some singles, if you just want some extra cash, if you value your time and you want to send your cards to someone else and buy list them away, Card Conduit is the perfect resource for you. There are different levels of how much sorting you do for your cards, so depending on the work that you do, you will end up paying less fees to Card Conduit for selling your cards.
Use the link in the description and you're gonna get percentage points off. You're gonna save even more money using that code JAJAM down there. Thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring.
It ends up being 10%, which is pretty sweet.
Jake, at the end of your turn, untap all merfolk you control.
This sounds like a card that absolutely is going to town because of new Ixalan.
Absolutely. It is a hot shit merfolk card. Under $1 in 2012. Now it's at $15 because everybody wants to engage in some commerce with their marrows.
Look how strong this card is, though. At a glance, it's like, yeah, if you're playing Merfolk and Commander, you should probably be running this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was a nothing burger forever, and now, you know, the market price is freaking $15, $14.30. Pretty wild.
One of the, if not the best Merfolk commander says, tap another Merfolk you control, do a thing. Tap 3 you control, do a thing. Tap 5 you control, do a thing. You know what would really help you out is if all of those were untapping when you're done.
It's like the Seedborn Muse enchantment for your Merfolk, the whatever you want to call it, the Prophet of Krufix of Merfolk going on here. It's a very strong card. Yeah, I'm not even surprised by this. It's a huge scarcity play here.
This is the only printing of the card. I didn't want to leave that out.
No, don't ever.
Sauron here is going to represent an entire group of cards, which are the borderless poster Lord of the Rings cards. They all look crazy like this. You either love them or you hate them. You either read them or you can't.
I love them.
Yeah, I think they look wild.
I love them. Yeah.
And this one's kind of a weird one for us because we wanted to talk about it because these cards are spiking like crazy right now. But this is a weird one because you go, okay, these aren't going to show back up anywhere else, most likely. It's been as low as 24. It's up into 130 at this point. Jake, do you think that this is a card that actually falls over time? Or is this one that's just going to kind of climb until it hits its ceiling and then even off?
It is important that we talk about this card because I'm very much on the fence with it, right?
Me too.
There's part of me that's like, certain cards from this set may be going through a hype phase right now because people are trying to complete the sets. I mean, they definitely are. But there's people that want every single Lord of the Rings card in this treatment.
Yeah, and you got internet hype too. People are like, oh, the set's not being open. Nobody cares. These cards are going to go to the moon.
It's also still very new.
Right.
Now, there are serialized cards in here. We do have the IP overlap. I think these are cards that you just need to have on your radar. I have to believe that most MTG sets are going to follow the same trend regardless of what the IP is, right?
Yeah.
Is that the further out we get from them, there's just extra stock waiting in the wings. I don't know why they wouldn't print a lot of this if it's Lord of the Rings and if they know there's serialized cards in there and if they know that, people are going to be wanting these special cards. I've seen these set within a set kind of things where there's this big phase of hype where people are just overpaying, and then what ends up happening is the card teeters off and like that set is out of sight, out of mind. I know it's Lord of the Rings. It's hard to make a good determination on this because it could be the kind of thing where they just steadily rise because there's a bunch of Lord of the Rings fans that just have to have them, and then you have MTG fans that also have to have them. And so because it's a set kind of thing, it's hard for me to make the determination. That's just me kind of talking through how I feel about it.
Chaos wand to your head. Somebody says, buy or do not buy. Where you fall?
For me, this one is probably a do not buy. I have to believe that there's going to be a little bit more of a correction to the downside. I think it has another all-time low to find before an all-time high,
Yeah, absolutely. Clip this and show it to me in 6 months, but
I might be completely wrong.
Right. I just don't like it at this price. I don't like it at this price. Yeah. As we shoot this video, Lost Caverns of Ixalan has just released. Typically, we aren't looking too much at the highest value cards in that set at this point, but since we were putting this video together, I just wanted to quickly mention some of the cards in this set that Jake and I think aren't going to hold price just based on looking at comps to these cards in sets that aren't even a year old yet that have already tanked. Lost Caverns of Ixalan, when you look at the overall set and sort by market, you got Cavern of Souls, you got Otrimi, Bonehorde Dracosaur. You're going down 10 cards, 2, 4, 6, 8, more than 10 cards, and you still got $10 plus. But if you look at sets that even come out this year, there aren't that many cards, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 that are still that $10, $20 plus value. So Otrimi, I think there's a lot of hype around this one because if one or more creature tokens will be created, 3 times that many are created. Yeah. It's good, it's strong. You resolve this, it's gonna make some waves. But it just doesn't feel like the kind of card to me, especially with a special version that's also available. I just don't feel like this is going to hold this kind of value long term.
It is kind of a high casting cost, even for this extremely big and splashy effect. Like if you have another token doubler out there, I mean, this just goes bananas, right?
Yeah, I was going to look it up as a comp. Mondrak 4-mana version creates twice that many and you can make it indestructible. This one is kind of held price. Phyrexia came out at the beginning of the year. It was above 50. And look, y'all, if we slow this chart to where this set would be right now, less than a month, boom. Look how similar those lines look to these lines. Interesting. But long term settles down and it holds out where the value of that kind of effect holds out. So just wait. These modern sets, they aren't holding value for singles, especially in the short term.
Yeah, this to me seems like a good one to wait on. This is very high.
Bonehorde Dracosaur is the same way. 5 mana, 5/5 dragon, flying first strike. Exile the top 2 cards of your library at the beginning of your upkeep, and you can play them. And if a land gets exiled, you create a 3/1. If you exile a non-land, you create a treasure token. Very strong. Very strong mythic. This set just came out. This is not a $25 card.
But it's a dinosaur dragon.
That is relevant. You're right. I will say that's a very relevant thing. Look at this one. This one's already plummeting down. This was, that's a fake price. But
yeah.
It's, I mean, $20 10 days ago. I don't think that this one holds value long term. We just talked earlier about the mythic 3 green pips card from Phyrexial will be 1. This one just it's not the time, especially for cards like Tishana's Tidebinder, Jake, where they're finding homes in modern decks, standard decks,
right,
pioneer decks. It's just getting opened. People are scampering for 3 and 4 copies for their decks. That is driving this price right now. You can see
right.
$4.
Yeah, Galta, I love that. It going through a huge adjustment, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's really what's happening. Is like, this is all stuff that's brand new. It's getting opened right now. It's going to continue getting opened. This is a set that people are really interested in because you have Jurassic Park cards that are in the collector product, that kind of stuff. So yeah, all of these dinosaurs, because you have a lot of hype for dinosaurs, are going to be going through big dinosaur-like waves.
Oh yeah.
From the Carnosaur here as well. I played this card in limited and I actually really loved it. If you cast it, you get that huge discover.
Right, you get a free 5 cost or less.
But early on, you can discard it and pay 1 red and 2 other, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So in a limited environment, this is just great. You're able to get some versatility out of this card. Sometimes I'm playing it and I'm getting a big 7/6 and I'm getting a huge discover. But sometimes I'm like, man, I really need to kill that little thing. And for me, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to pitch this and clean up the board. So versatility,
yes. It's good. It's good in limited, but it's also getting played in Pioneer. And so right now, people are sprinting to get multiple copies so that they can get it into their constructed decks.
Well, yeah, so they probably like that it has that versatility, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like, okay, I have something that's 9 times out of 10 going to be played as a removal, but maybe I'm going to draw this card late when both me and my opponent are in a stalled out board state. Now, all of a sudden, I'm playing a 7/6 and I'm getting a big spell either to the battlefield or into my hand, right? And so...
Well, they're running it too alongside the Archaeologist. That's the 4 cost one that discovers on ETB, so that you can trumpeting into Archaeologist and you just cascade. It's cascade all the way down without the downside. So right now, especially at rare, don't hype it out. These cards will fall just like all the cards. But there is one card that we need to discuss that its trajectory is not as clear. I tweeted about this card today. Everybody's been tweeting about this card for the last week or two. Roaming Throne. ETBs choose a creature type. It's the chosen type in addition. And if a triggered ability of another creature you control the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. It's Creature Harmonicon. It's Kindred Harmonicon.
Yeah, it's extremely good.
It's extremely good. It's the problem with this card is that it's staple-ish. This is a card that everybody's going to want. It's colorless. Every Kindred deck is going to want a copy of this. I want a couple of copies of this for my creature type decks. This is a card to me where the market discovered it. They were like, oh, wow, this is good. It's just hovering under a $10 rare. Truly got played. Boom. Now it's popping off like crazy. Lots of people talking on Twitter about, oh, man, I was... telling people to buy this at 4 and 5 because I was testing it out. But now with it at 20, this is a card that they're going to need to reprint sooner rather than later. So it's a high risk of reprint.
Right. And Commander is a lot of like ETB the Gathering, right? Yeah. I mean, if you just want to reverberate the effects, yeah, it's extremely strong.
Roaming Throne is one for me where it's another kind of toss-up. Kind of like the poster cards from Lord of the Rings, the borderless ones. It's hard for me to say where this one's going to go. It doesn't scream to me, I'm going to crash because of how playable it is and desirable it is. But it did just come out. And so it'll correct back down. This looks like a $10 rare to me. A reprint of this pushes it into that 6 to 8 territory, maybe lower, especially if that reprint is in a set where they've got 4 versions of it, for example. Wanted to mention this one just because of how much discussion it's getting on. Right now, my Chaos Wand of the Head call would be don't buy. Wait.
Yeah. It's, oh man, a 4/4 for 4 with Ward 2. And then all of this text. Yeah, dude, I'm a fan of this card. I think it's really strong. It does seem kind of staple-ish. For me, nearing $20, I'm probably not buying this for around the all-time high, which is why this is called Don't Buy These.
What cards would you not touch with a 10-foot pole right now? Let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, if there's anything that you are not buying or if there's anything that you are getting rid of right now, let us know in the comments. Right now, Magic the Gathering is in a great time for players to just be buying cards, but as always, there are cards that creep up to these prices that are pretty expensive, and so you can rest assured these days that eventually those reprints are going to make their rounds.
Like and subscribe.